Welcome back then folks to the second build of Special Projects pack number 11, and if my voice sounds a bit weird or if you hear me stopping to breathe every so often, I think I'm coming down with a cold, which is typical when I've got 10 videos in a week to record. But this time, this I will say, out of all 10, even if it's not my favourite, it may well be, but even if it isn't, this time around, this is the one which really surprised me. Because the F40 has never been one of my favourite cars, and I personally find it usually to be a bit of a twitchy animal to tune. It's a bit slippery, a bit twitchy, like I said. This one, in this particular form, with these specs, this thing is a beast, and it's possibly one of my favourites that I've built. So quite the turnaround from a standard F40. It is, of course, a replica, and of course I'll put a link in the description to the player's design, to the actual F40 LM, which ran in Le Mans. And even though it didn't win, to give some perspective on just how quick this car was in real life, this actually qualified faster than all of the McLaren F1s in that year's Le Mans. So a properly quick machine, and I didn't actually realise prior to looking into the background of the LM that it was that quick. I thought it was kind of there and gone supercar, but that is some serious performance. Now, as far as the tuning, we are running real-life numbers, so 1,050 kilos and 720 horsepower. Of course, some of the aero will be fitted from downloading the player's design. A few people have done it, but I wanted to go for this number 40 car in particular. So as far as the parts, if we jump to the Ultimate section first, I've gone for the Stage 5 weight reduction and the ultra-high RPM turbo. Then if we go back around to the Sports, we've got the Stage 1 weight, of course. As far as the Club Sports section, we've got Stage 2 weight, power restrictor and ballast. As far as the semi-racing stuff, you want the semi-racing exhaust, and in particular, of course, the race exhaust makes more sense, but you need to get it, like I said, to 720 horses. I got it to 719 without having to kind of chop and change all different parts. So if you want to try and get it to exactly 720, you know, if the OCD kicks in or whatever, then go for it, but I've settled at 719. As far as the crank and the computer, those are both upgraded. For the diff, that is upgraded as well. We've got the Stage 3 weight reduction. I've, as you can see, opted to not upgrade the body rigidity. You could. I wanted to hold off on it in case it made the car feel a little bit too twitchy. In hindsight, it doesn't really feel like it needs it. So I'll leave it down to you if you want to go for that or not. For the racing stuff, we've got the polished ports, the balance tuning, the race intercooler, the race filter. As I said, you don't actually need to buy the racing silencer. I already had it fitted anyway, but you don't need that one. You want the semi-racing one actually fitted, like I said. We've got the slotted discs, racing pads, race manifold, suspension, clutch and flywheel, of course the transmission, Stage 4 weight, which if I recall correctly is fitted anyway because of the Stage 5, and the racing hard tyres are what I've gone for, but of course that will depend on where you plan to use it or the point level. As far as the extreme stuff, we've got the steering angle adapter, as of course I often like to do, really helps with the turn-in, and then we already covered the Ultimate section. So as you can see, it's up around 760 points, so pretty high, pretty hefty, just beyond a Group 3 machine. And speaking of being beyond Group 3, you'll see in a second just how far beyond them this thing is. So if we jump into the tuning, 719 horses, 1050 kilos, so we've got the racing hards fitted. As far as the suspension, 85mm front and back, 5 on the, or I should say the ride height, I think I just said anti-roll. The ride height is 85 front and back, anti-roll is 5, then 30 and 40 for the dampers, 3.25 for the springs, quite a hefty amount of camber, like proper race car territory with 3 degrees front and rear. As far as the toe, we've towed out 0.10 on the front, towed in 0.20 on the rear. As far as the diff, 10, 20 and 20 is what I've gone for. Like I said, I love it. This is probably the best tuning out of the 10 in terms of turning the car around from what it already is like. As far as the transmission, of course, the fully customised is fitted. I've gone for an auto setting, which is fairly low. 340 kilometers an hour isn't that crazy, but that's already more than good enough to give this a really strong top speed at Le Mans. So if you find that you need to stretch it a bit more, you could, but I didn't want to make the gears so long that it only works on Le Mans. You know, you want it to still be a bit versatile. As far as the power restriction, that is untouched. Obviously, I always like to have the power restrictor just in case you need it. But for the ballast, you do want to use that at 148 kilos. And then I've opted to put that 48% toward the front, which gives us a nice 49-51, very LMP style split. And then as far as the downforce, surprise, surprise, I've got that set to the max, because obviously being a road car, you want to give it every advantage it can have. And then for the parts over here, you can see everything we have fitted. So that's it for the build. Now, of course, we'll jump out to Le Mans. And like I said earlier on, this thing can not only take on Group 3 cars, it is way beyond them. Of course, the point level is higher than most of them anyway, but it is so much quicker on the straights. Now that was pretty much a given. You knew it was going to be quick. It's a Ferrari F40 that weighs barely a ton with over 700 horsepower. It was never going to be slow. The thing was, I expected it to be really challenging or kind of skittish, like I said, to drive. Well, it isn't. This thing is phenomenal to drive. I absolutely love it, like I've said multiple times. And this, I think, alongside perhaps the Murcielago RGT build, which I did in one of the very earliest packs, are probably the two which come to mind the most for me in terms of what the vehicle starts out like compared to what the tuning redefines it into. So it's that level for me. If you do decide to give it a go, I hope you enjoy it. I think you probably will. And of course, give the players some love from me if you go for their design. Naturally, stick around for the rest of the week for all of the other special projects. And of course, I hope you enjoy the ones that we've already done today. But I'll see you next time for more. And for now, thanks for watching.